The deep, infinite blackness of space stretched in all directions, swallowing any sense of time or distance. It was within this void that Captain Rena Hawk stared out from the bridge of the human exploration vessel Vanguard. She was a decorated officer, known for her fearless demeanor and ability to remain calm even in the direst situations. Today, however, a sense of unease settled over her as a mysterious signal had interrupted their routine survey of a remote star system. "Captain, we're picking up an unusual signal," Lieutenant Vega reported from his station, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "It's coming from an uncharted area of space." Rena furrowed her brow. "What kind of signal?" "It's erratic, almost like a distress beacon, but it doesn't match any known frequencies," Vega replied, glancing up from his console. "It's desperate." The crew exchanged nervous glances. In their years of exploration, they had encountered strange phenomena, but this felt different, urgent. "Set a course for the signal. Prepare for descent," Rena commanded, her voice steady despite the growing tension. "And be on high alert. We don't know what we're heading into." As the Vanguard moved silently through the cold emptiness, the signal grew stronger, pulling them closer to an unknown world. The planet below, shrouded in swirling clouds of gray and blue, looked uninhabitable at first glance. But as they descended, the remains of an enormous alien ship came into view, half buried in the planet's surface. The crew gasped in unison at the sight of the devastation. The alien craft, sleek and advanced, was torn apart, its glowing symbols flickering faintly as though clinging to life. "Scanners show no active threats," Vega reported cautiously, "but I'm picking up faint life signs from within the wreckage." Rena's pulse quickened. "Survivor." She turned to her crew. "Gear up. We're going down." The shuttle hummed as it detached from the Vanguard and began its descent toward the planet's surface. Inside the cramped cabin, Captain Rena Hawk and her team of 4 sat in tense silence, the weight of the unknown hanging heavily over them. Lieutenant Vega kept his eyes glued to the scanner readout, still tracking the faint life signs emanating from the wreckage. As the shuttle neared the surface, the extent of the destruction became even more apparent. Massive pieces of alien metal, twisted and scorched, were strewn across the barren landscape, which was dotted with deep craters and jagged mountains. Strange glowing glyphs pulsed weakly from the wreckage, casting an eerie light over the debris field. The shuttle touched down with a soft thud, and Rena wasted no time. "Let's move," she ordered, her tone sharp as she secured her helmet and opened the hatch. The crew stepped onto the surface, their boots crunching against the desolate ground. The air was heavy, thick with the remnants of whatever catastrophic event had befallen the alien ship. Rena led the way toward the largest fragment of the vessel, which still emitted the strange signal. "Keep your eyes open. We don't know what we'll find in there," she warned. The entrance to the wreckage loomed ahead, a gaping maw of torn metal and broken technology. Inside, it was dark and cold, with only the flickering light from the strange glyphs to guide their way. As they ventured deeper into the ship, the life signs grew stronger, but still faint. "There," Vega whispered, pointing toward a small alcove in the far corner of the room. Rena's breath caught in her throat. Lying amidst the wreckage was a figure. A small alien girl, her skin a pale shade of lavender, shimmering faintly in the dim light. She was alive, but just barely. Her large, frightened eyes locked onto the humans, and she recoiled slightly, trembling with fear. Rena approached cautiously, lowering her weapon. "It's okay," she said softly, unsure if the girl could understand her. "We're here to help." The alien girl hesitated, her eyes wide with confusion and terror. Slowly, she extended a weak hand toward Rena. The captain knelt beside her, gently taking the girl's hand in hers. An overwhelming surge of emotion coursed through her, fear, desperation, and something else she couldn't quite identify. This child had witnessed something unimaginable. "Captain," Vega called out, his voice tight with urgency. "We've got to move." There's more energy spikes coming from the wreck. This place isn't stable. Without hesitation, Rena scooped the alien girl into her arms. We're getting out of here. Now. As they raced back toward the shuttle, the ground beneath them trembled, and the sound of distant explosions rumbled through the wreckage. Whatever had caused the destruction was still present, and it was getting closer. They barely made it back to the shuttle as the wreckage behind them erupted in a series of violent explosions. Inside, the alien girl clung tightly to Rena, her small body trembling with fear, but they were safe for the moment. Back aboard the Vanguard, Rena stood in the medical bay, watching as the doctors worked quickly to stabilize the alien girl. Her mind was racing. Who was this child, and what had happened to her ship? And more importantly, what had caused such devastation? Before she could dwell on the questions for too long, Vega's voice crackled through her comb. Captain, we've got a problem. There's something else down there, and it's heading straight for us. Back on the bridge of the Vanguard, Captain Rena Hawk hurried to her command station as Lieutenant Vega's warning echoed in her ears. The atmosphere aboard the ship was tense, with crew members darting between stations, checking systems, and preparing for whatever was coming. What exactly are we dealing with, Vega? Rena demanded, her voice sharp as she approached the central console. Vega's face was pale, his eyes fixed on the data streaming across his monitor. It's massive, Captain. Whatever it is, it's rising from beneath the surface where the alien wreckage was. I can't even tell if it's a ship or a structure, but it's moving. Rena's eyes narrowed as she turned her gaze toward the viewing screen. In the distance, the planet's surface trembled violently. Dust clouds swirled, and from within the haze, an enormous dark shape began to rise, dwarfing the wreckage they had just escaped from. It was colossal, an alien construct unlike anything they had ever encountered, bristling with strange symbols and glowing with an ominous energy. It's heading straight for us, Vega said, his voice low with disbelief. And fast. Rena's stomach twisted with the realization that they might not be able to outrun whatever this thing was. Raise the shields. Full power to engines. Get us out of range. The Vanguard roared to life as the ship's engines ignited, propelling them away from the planet's surface. The massive alien structure continued its pursuit, its movements unsettlingly fast for something so large. Captain, it's charging something, some kind of energy weapon. Vega called out, his fingers flying over the controls. It's targeting us. Rena clenched her fists. Evasive maneuvers. Prepare countermeasures. The Vanguard veered hard to the right just as a beam of crackling energy erupted from the alien structure, slicing through the void of space with deadly precision. The beam grazed the ship, sending shockwaves through the hull and causing alarms to blare across the bridge. Shields down to 60%. One of the officers reported, her voice tight with tension. We can't take another hit like that. Vega muttered, his eyes darting between screens. Rena's mind raced. They were outgunned and outmatched. Running wasn't an option, but just as the weight of the situation pressed down on her, a soft voice broke through the comms. It was the alien girl. She stood in the doorway of the bridge, her lavender skin glowing faintly, her eyes filled with urgency. She pointed toward the viewing screen, where the massive alien structure loomed, then pointed back to herself. Her expression was pleading. She knows something, Rena realized aloud, turning to face the girl. She knows how to stop it. Vega looked skeptical. Captain, she's a child. How could she? She survived the wreckage of an advanced alien ship that was annihilated by whatever this thing is. Rena interrupted. If she's still alive, it's for a reason. The girl stepped forward, pointing more insistently at the screen, and then at the main control panel, her eyes wide with desperation. Rena could feel the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. They had no other options. Get her to the core, Rena ordered, her voice firm. Let's hope she can do what we can't. Vega hesitated for only a second before nodding. He hurried to the alien girl's side and gently took her by the hand, guiding her toward the ship's reactor core, the heart of the Vanguard, where the ship's power was controlled. Back on the bridge, Rena's focus shifted back to the looming threat. Helm, keep us moving. We need to buy them as much time as possible. The Vanguard twisted and turned, dodging the relentless barrage of energy beams from the alien structure. Each near hit sent the ship shuddering, and Rena knew they were running out of time. Down in the core, Vega stood beside the alien girl as she approached the central console. Her glowing fingers danced across the controls, moving with a certainty that no human could replicate. Strange symbols flashed across the screens, symbols that resembled the glyphs on the alien structure. It was as if she was speaking to it, unlocking something hidden deep within its technology. Vega watched in awe as the reactor core began to pulse with renewed energy. "She's doing something," he whispered to himself, though he had no idea what. Suddenly, the girl stopped, turning to look at Vega with wide, urgent eyes. She pointed at the core's main control panel and gestured rapidly, her hands moving in a pattern that Vega didn't understand. "She needs us to activate something," Vega realized. But what? The ship shuddered again, and Vega's crackled with Rena's voice. "Vega, we're out of time. Whatever she's doing, she needs to do it now." The alien girl pressed her hand to the console, her expression one of intense concentration. For a moment, everything was still. And then, without warning, a surge of energy burst from the core, radiating outward through the ship. On the bridge, Rena watched in shock as the alien structure's attack suddenly ceased. The glowing symbols on its surface flickered and dimmed, as if something had disrupted its power. "It's retreating." Vega's voice crackled through the cum. Rena let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. She did it. But as the alien structure faded into the distance, a new sense of dread settled over Rena. This wasn't over. The girl had stopped the immediate threat, but the enemy was still out there, lurking in the darkness of space. And they would be back. Back aboard the Vanguard, the tension had not subsided. Though the immediate threat had passed, the crew was on edge, trying to make sense of the events that had unfolded. Captain Rena Hawk stood by the observation window, staring into the vast emptiness of space, her thoughts racing. In the medical bay, the alien girl sat on the examination table, her lavender skin glowing faintly under the soft lights. She was calm now, but her eyes remained wary, scanning the room as if searching for something. Rena entered quietly, her footsteps soft against the sterile floor. "How is she?" Rena asked, her gaze shifting to Dr. Mila, the ship's chief medical officer, who was standing nearby. Dr. Mila shook her head slowly. "Physically, she's fine, aside from some mild exhaustion and dehydration. But cognitively, that's a different story. She's unlike anything I've ever seen. Her neural patterns are extraordinary." Rena frowned. "What do you mean?" Dr. Mila gestured to the scanner hovering over the girl. "Her brain activity is off the charts. Whatever species she belongs to, their mental capabilities far surpass ours. I think that's how she was able to interface with the ship's core. She was communicating with it on a level we can't comprehend." The alien girl looked up, her eyes locking onto Rena's. There was an intensity in her gaze, a sense of understanding that seemed far beyond her years. Rena stepped closer, kneeling down to meet her at eye level. "Who are you?" Rena asked softly, knowing full well that the girl likely didn't understand her words. The girl didn't respond verbally, but her expression changed. She closed her eyes, her brow furrowing in concentration. Rena felt a strange sensation wash over her, a warmth, followed by a flood of images flashing in her mind. Suddenly, Rena was no longer in the medical bay. She was standing on a vibrant alien world, surrounded by towering structures of shimmering crystal. In the sky above, ships that resembled the wreckage they had found earlier flew in perfect formation, their engines humming with an otherworldly energy. But the scene quickly shifted. The skies darkened, and those same ships were now in flames, crashing down toward the planet in a cascade of fire and debris. The ground trembled as massive, shadowy figures emerged from the horizon. Unstoppable forces of destruction. Rena gasped as the vision ended, snapping back to reality. The alien girl was staring at her, her eyes filled with sorrow. She showed me something," Rena murmured, shaken by the intensity of the experience. Her world was attacked, destroyed. Dr. Mila's eyes widened. "You're saying she communicated with you telepathically?" Rena nodded, trying to steady her breathing. "I think she's the last survivor of her species, and whatever destroyed her world, it's still out there." The weight of the revelation settled heavily over the room. The girl wasn't just a lost child, she was the key to understanding a much larger, much more dangerous threat. Suddenly, the system crackled to life. Vega's voice urgent. "Captain, you need to get to the bridge. We've got incoming." Rena's heart sank. "I'm on my way." She turned back to the alien girl, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Stay here. We'll keep you safe." The girl didn't protest, but her eyes followed Rena as she hurried out of the room. On the bridge, the atmosphere was chaotic. Officers scrambled to their stations, and the hum of the ship's systems filled the air. Rena entered quickly, her eyes immediately darting to the view screen. A massive ship had appeared on the edge of the Vanguard's radar. It was sleek and dark, its surface covered in the same strange symbols as the wreckage they had found on the planet below. But this vessel was different. It wasn't just large, it was colossal, dwarfing even the alien structure they had encountered earlier. "Who are they?" Rena asked, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "We don't know," Vega replied, his fingers flying over the console. "It just appeared out of nowhere. No comms, no signals, nothing, but it's heading straight for us." Rena's mind raced. This had to be connected to the alien girl, the ship, the wreckage, the vision she had shown her. Whoever these new arrivals were, they were part of the same force that had destroyed the girl's world. "Prepare the ship for combat," Rena ordered, "but don't fire unless they make the first move." The Vanguard's weapon systems powered up, the hum of energy filling the air as the ship's crew braced for the worst. But then, something unexpected happened. The alien girl appeared on the bridge, having slipped away from the medical bay. Her eyes were wide with fear, but there was something else in them too. Determination. She pointed toward the massive alien ship, then at herself, just as she had done before. "She knows them," Vega said, his voice barely above a whisper. Rena turned to face the girl, her mind racing. "They're the ones who destroyed your world, aren't they?" The girl nodded, her expression grim. Rena's jaw tightened. They were outmatched and outgunned, but they had something the enemy didn't. This girl, and whatever knowledge she possessed. "We're not running this time," Rena declared, her voice firm. "If they want a fight, we'll give them one, but we're doing this on our terms." She turned to Vega. "Prepare the jump drive. We're taking this battle somewhere else." The crew moved into action, and the Vanguard's engines roared to life as they prepared for a daring escape. The alien ship loomed closer, its weapon systems glowing with deadly energy. As the jump drive powered up, Rena locked eyes with the alien girl. "We're going to need your help again. Are you ready?" The girl nodded, her resolve clear. "Then let's show them what we're made of," Rena said, her voice filled with determination. With a flash of light, the Vanguard jumped into hyperspace, leaving the alien threat behind, at least for now. The jump into hyperspace was smooth, but the tension aboard the Vanguard only grew thicker as they re-entered normal space. The crew had managed to escape, but everyone knew the threat wasn't far behind. Captain Rena Hawk stood at the helm, her eyes scanning the readings on the ship's console. They had jumped to a remote sector of space, far from any established trade routes or colonies. Here, they would either gain a moment of reprieve or face their final stand. Lieutenant Vega's voice broke the silence. "Captain, we've successfully jumped, But the alien ship is tracking us. They'll be here soon. Rena clenched her jaw, glancing at the alien girl who stood silently near the bridge entrance. The girl's lavender skin still faintly glowed, and her large eyes watched everything with an intensity that unsettled even the most seasoned members of the crew. Rena approached her slowly, lowering herself to the girl's eye level. "We need to understand," Rena began softly, her voice calm but firm. "What are they, and why are they after you?" The girl hesitated, her gaze drifting toward the massive viewing screen that displayed the stars stretched out before them. She closed her eyes again, just as she had done before. And once more, Rena felt a strange pull, a connection. Images flooded Rena's mind, sharper and more vivid this time. She saw the girl's homeworld again, but this time, there was more. The towering crystal structures of her planet were not just homes but vast centers of knowledge and technology. Her people were peaceful, advanced beyond human comprehension, and they had been the protectors of some ancient and powerful secret. But then, the dark shapes had come, beings from another realm, intent on seizing that power for themselves. They had torn through the defenses of the girl's world, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. And now, they were after her, the last remaining link to whatever it was they sought. Rena gasped as the vision ended, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked into the girl's eyes and saw the truth. "They're not just after you. They want something your people were protecting." The girl nodded, her expression solemn. Rena rose to her feet, her mind racing. "Vega, how long until they catch up to us?" "Minutes, maybe less," Vega responded, his voice filled with urgency. "They're closing in fast." Rena's thoughts moved rapidly. She couldn't outrun them again. This time, they had to fight, but not just with brute force. This enemy was far too powerful for that. They had to outthink them. "Prepare all weapon systems," Rena ordered, her voice sharp. "But don't fire until I give the command." The crew rushed into action, the ship's weapons humming as they charged to full power. The tension was palpable as the massive alien ship loomed closer on the radar. It was an ominous, dark shape in the vastness of space, and its sheer size dwarfed the Vanguard. "Captain, they're almost in range," Vega warned. Rena's mind raced, calculating their chances. She had no illusions about the odds. They were slim, but the alien girl was their trump card. Whatever the enemy wanted, it revolved around her, and that gave Rena an idea. "Open comms," Rena ordered. Vega hesitated, but did as she asked. "Comms open, Captain." Rena took a deep breath, her eyes narrowing as she stared at the alien ship on the viewing screen. "This is Captain Rena Hawk of the human vessel Vanguard," she announced, her voice steady. "We know why you're here, and we're not going to let you take her." There was no response for a moment, only the heavy silence of space. Then, without warning, the alien ship fired. The beam of energy erupted from its surface, hurtling toward the Vanguard. The ship rocked violently as the shields absorbed the brunt of the impact, but they were already weakening. "Shields down to 40%. Vega shouted, gripping the edge of his console. Rena's knuckles turned white as she clenched her fists. They couldn't withstand another hit like that. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers." But before she could give the command, the alien girl stepped forward, her eyes wide with fear, but also with resolve. She pointed urgently at the screen, then at herself. Rena understood immediately. The girl was their only chance. "Take her to the core," Rena ordered. Vega didn't question the command. He rushed to the girl's side, guiding her toward the ship's core, the heart of the Vanguard, where she had already proven she could interact with their systems in ways no human could. Rena watched them disappear through the door, her heart pounding in her chest. Everything depended on the girl now. On the bridge, the alien ship prepared for another strike. "Captain, they're charging their weapons again." Vega's voice crackled through the comm. "We can't take another hit." Rena took a deep breath, her eyes locked on the viewing screen. "We hold our ground. Buy them as much time as possible." Down in the core, the alien girl moved with purpose. Her glowing fingers danced across the control panels, her actions precise and deliberate. Strange symbols appeared on the screens, alien glyphs that no human could decipher. But she understood them perfectly. She was unlocking something deep within the ship's systems, tapping into technology that went far beyond anything the crew of the Vanguard could comprehend. The ship shook violently as another blast hit, and Rena's voice came through the com again. "Whatever you're doing, it needs to happen now." The girl's glowing fingers moved faster, her eyes narrowing with concentration. Finally, with a sharp click, she activated something within the core. A surge of energy radiated outward, not just through the Vanguard, but toward the alien ship as well. On the bridge, Rena watched in shock as the alien ship's systems flickered, the ominous glow on its surface dimming. The symbols that had covered its hull began to fade, as if something had disrupted their power. "It's working," Vega whispered, astonished. "She's shutting them down." The alien ship, once an unstoppable force, now appeared crippled. Its weapons powered down, and the once menacing glow had all but disappeared. The enemy was still there, but they were no longer a threat, not for the moment. Rena let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. She did it. But deep down, she knew this was far from over. The alien girl had saved them, but the enemy wasn't defeated. They had only bought themselves some time. Whatever power the girl possessed, it was the key to stopping the enemy for good. But first, they had to understand it. The calm aboard the Vanguard was fragile. Although the alien ship had been temporarily disabled, everyone knew it was only a matter of time before it would recover. Captain Rena Hawk stood at the center of the bridge, watching the viewing screen as the once ominous, glowing ship now drifted, dark and silent. It looked like a sleeping giant, but one that could awaken at any moment. "Status on the alien ship?" Rena asked, her voice tense. Lieutenant Vega scanned the readings, his fingers flying over the console. "They're not moving, Captain. Their systems appear to be in some sort of shutdown, but I don't know how long it'll last." Rena nodded, her mind already racing ahead. "We need answers before they come back online." She turned and headed toward the core, where the alien girl was still working. As she descended into the heart of the ship, Rena's thoughts whirled. The girl had just saved them again, using technology no one aboard the Vanguard understood. Whatever she had unlocked, it had temporarily disarmed the enemy. But how? And more importantly, why was she so critical to their mission? When Rena entered the core, she found the girl standing in front of the main control panel, her lavender skin faintly glowing, her expression one of deep concentration. Beside her, Vega was monitoring the systems, but even he seemed unsure of what the girl had done. "Captain," Vega said, turning as she approached, "I've never seen anything like this. She's tapping into something buried deep within our ship's systems, something that was never there before." Rena nodded, her gaze shifting to the alien girl. "We need to talk to her." She knelt down beside the girl, who looked up at her with those wide, intelligent eyes. "I need you to help us understand," Rena said softly, though she wasn't sure how much the girl could comprehend. "Why are they after you? What do they want?" The girl blinked, her expression solemn. Then, with a deep breath, she placed her hand on Rena's forehead. Once again, Rena was pulled into a vivid vision, but this time, it was different. She was no longer standing on the girl's homeworld. Instead, she found herself in the depths of a dark, alien fortress. It was cold and metallic, the walls pulsing with a strange, dark energy. In the center of the room stood a towering figure, a creature draped in shadow, its face hidden behind a mask of sharp, angular lines. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and in its hands, it held a small, glowing orb, the same color as the girl's skin. Rena felt a chill run down her spine as she realized what she was seeing. The creature wasn't just any enemy. It was the leader of the forces that had destroyed the girl's world. and the glowing orb it held, whatever it was the key to everything. Suddenly, the vision shifted again. Now, Rena was back on the girl's home planet, but it was burning. The once beautiful crystalline towers were collapsing, and the sky was filled with dark, alien ships. The towering figure appeared again, standing over the ruins, watching with cold indifference as the world fell into chaos. The girl's voice echoed in Rena's mind, though it wasn't in words, it was in feelings. Fear, desperation, loss. And then Rena understood. The girl's people had been the guardians of something ancient, something powerful, something that the enemy wanted desperately to control. The glowing orb wasn't just a relic. It was a source of immense energy, capable of reshaping entire worlds. The girl was the last living link to that power, and that's why the enemy was hunting her. The vision ended abruptly, and Rena gasped as she was pulled back into the present. The girl released her hand, her eyes filled with sorrow. "They want the power you carry," Rena murmured, understanding dawning on her. "And they'll stop at nothing to get it." The girl nodded slowly, her expression grim. Rena stood up, her mind racing. They couldn't let the enemy take the girl or the power she carried. If that energy fell into the wrong hands, the consequences would be catastrophic, not just for the girl's people, but for every species in the galaxy. "We need to stop them, once and for all," Rena said, her voice filled with determination. "But how?" Vega asked, his brow furrowed in concern. "We're still outgunned, even if she can disable their systems temporarily. They'll adapt. And the next time, we might not get so lucky." Rena thought for a moment, her eyes narrowing as a plan began to form. What if we didn't have to fight them head-on? What if we could take the fight to them, strike at the heart of their operation? Vega's eyes widened. "You mean go after their leader?" Rena nodded. "Exactly. If we can find out where that fortress is, where their command structure is located, we could take them by surprise, cut off the head of the snake, and the rest will fall apart." "But how do we find it?" Vega asked, skeptical. Rena turned to the alien girl. "She knows. She's seen it." The girl hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward, her glowing fingers moving across the ship's controls. She brought up a star map, filled with unfamiliar constellations and alien symbols. But Rena recognized one of them from the vision. A cluster of stars surrounding a dark, swirling nebula. "That's where we need to go," Rena said, pointing at the screen. Vega frowned. "That's deep in uncharted space. We don't even know if it's possible to navigate there." Rena's gaze was steely. "We don't have a choice. If we stay here, they'll come for us. And if they get what they're after, there won't be anything left to protect." The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but they knew Rena was right. This was their only shot. "Prepare the ship for another jump," Rena commanded. "We're going to end this." The Vanguard shot through hyperspace, its engines humming with an energy that filled the entire crew with equal parts anticipation and dread. Captain Rena Hawk stood at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the viewing screen, as the stars streaked by. She knew this next jump would take them to the heart of the enemy, the dark, swirling nebula she had seen in the alien girl's vision. It was there, hidden within that abyss, that they would face the true threat. Lieutenant Vega, his voice steady but tense, interrupted the silence. "We're approaching the nebula, Captain. Estimated arrival in 2 minutes." Rena nodded. "Bring us out of hyperspace just outside the nebula. We don't want to go in blind." The crew worked in silence, each of them understanding the gravity of the situation. They weren't just heading into a battle. They were heading into the unknown, to confront an enemy that had already decimated entire worlds. And their only hope lay in the hands of the small alien girl who had saved them time and time again. As the Vanguard exited hyperspace, the massive, swirling nebula came into view. It was a sight both beautiful and terrifying. A churning vortex of dark clouds and glowing energy, crackling with bolts of lightning like plasma, Somewhere within that swirling chaos was the enemy's stronghold, hidden from view but looming with the promise of destruction. "Scan the nebula," Rena ordered. "We need to find their base." Vega's fingers danced over the controls. "It's difficult to get a clear reading in there, Captain. The energy levels are off the charts, but there's definitely something inside. I'm picking up artificial structures, massive ones." "That's it," Rena said, her voice determined. "Prepare for descent. Engage full shields. We'll need all the protection we can get in that storm." The Vanguard's engines roared to life as the ship moved forward, plunging into the swirling nebula. The ship trembled as it passed through the outer edges of the storm, but the shields held steady, glowing faintly as they absorbed the brunt of the energy. As they ventured deeper, the alien girl appeared on the bridge once more, her eyes wide, but filled with determination. She moved to the main control panel, her glowing fingers tracing unfamiliar symbols across the screen. Suddenly, the swirling energy outside seemed to part, revealing the hidden base within. A massive alien fortress, built into the core of the nebula itself. It was a sight both awe-inspiring and horrifying, with jagged spires of dark metal and pulsing veins of energy running through its walls. "That's where we need to go," Rena murmured, her eyes narrowing. "Right into the lion's den." Vega swallowed hard. "Captain, I'm detecting massive amounts of energy signatures coming from that base. Their defenses are overwhelming." Rena clenched her fists. "We don't have a choice. This is our only shot." Suddenly, the alien girl pointed at the screen again, her expression urgent. She gestured toward the fortress, then at herself, and then back at Rena. "She's telling us something," Vega said, watching closely. Rena's eyes narrowed as she tried to understand. "She wants to go in." The girl nodded, her gaze steady. Rena hesitated for a moment, but then her resolve hardened. "All right, we take her in, but we'll have to fight our way through." She turned to Vega. "Prepare the boarding shuttle. We're going in." The boarding shuttle hummed as it cut through the swirling energy of the nebula, weaving its way toward the fortress. Rena, Vega, and the alien girl sat in tense silence as they approached the massive structure. The shuttle shook violently as they neared the base, the energy waves growing stronger the closer they got. But the girl remained calm, her gaze fixed on the fortress ahead. As the shuttle touched down on the landing platform, Rena wasted no time. "Move fast and stay close," she ordered, her voice sharp as she secured her weapon. The fortress was eerily silent as they entered, its dark halls lit only by the faint glow of alien technology. The walls seemed to pulse with energy, and strange symbols flickered in and out of view, casting long shadows that danced across the floor. Vega moved cautiously beside Rena, his weapon at the ready. "Whatever this place is, it's not like anything we've seen before." Rena nodded grimly. "Stay focused. We're not alone here." As if on cue, the shadows around them shifted, and from the darkness emerged the enemy, tall, menacing figures draped in dark, alien armor. Their faces were obscured by masks of sharp, angular lines, and their glowing eyes burned with a malevolent light. "Here they come," Rena muttered. The battle erupted in an instant, the sound of blaster fire echoing through the halls. Rena and Vega moved in perfect sync, cutting down the enemy soldiers as they advanced. But the alien girl moved differently, her eyes glowing brightly as she raised her hands, sending out pulses of energy that disrupted the enemy's technology, disabling their weapons and leaving them vulnerable. "She's using the same power," Vega shouted over the chaos, amazed at the girl's abilities. Rena pushed forward, cutting through the last of the enemy soldiers, her focus unyielding. "We're getting close." Finally, they reached the central chamber, the heart of the fortress. There, standing at the center of the room, was the towering figure from Rena's vision, the enemy leader, draped in shadow, his glowing eyes filled with a cold, calculating malice. "You've come far, human," the leader's voice echoed through the chamber, his tone dripping with disdain. But this ends here. Rena stepped forward, her weapon raised. You've destroyed entire worlds for this power. But it's over. We won't let you take her. The leader's eyes narrowed. You think you can stop me? You are nothing but insects, playing with forces you cannot comprehend. Rena stood her ground, her heart pounding. We don't need to understand it to stop you. The alien girl stepped forward, her eyes glowing brightly. The leader sneered, raising his hand to unleash a powerful wave of energy. But the girl was faster. She extended her hands, and a surge of light erupted from her, filling the room with a blinding brilliance. The leader cried out as the energy enveloped him, his form flickering as the power of the girl's people washed over him. His armor cracked, and the dark energy that had fueled him began to dissipate, crumbling under the weight of the girl's power. With one final scream, the leader disintegrated, his body collapsing into dust. The room fell silent, the oppressive weight of the fortress lifting as the dark energy dissipated. Rena lowered her weapon, breathing heavily. It was over. The alien girl, now standing alone in the center of the chamber, turned to Rena and Vega, her eyes softening with relief. The threat that had hunted her and destroyed her world was finally gone. We did it, Vega said, his voice filled with disbelief. We actually did it. Rena smiled faintly, exhaustion washing over her. Yeah, we did. Back aboard the Vanguard, the crew moved with a sense of quiet victory. The alien threat had been defeated, and for the first time in what felt like ages, there was a sense of peace. In the medical bay, Rena stood by the alien girl's side, watching as she rested. She had been through so much, but now there was hope. The power she had protected, so dangerous in the wrong hands, was safe. And now, it was time for her to find a new home. We'll make sure she's safe, Dr. Mila said softly. Whatever happens next, she's earned her peace. Rena nodded, her heart heavy but full of resolve. She saved us all. The girl opened her eyes, meeting Rena's gaze. She smiled, a soft, knowing expression that spoke of a new beginning. Though her world was gone, she had found something new. People who would protect her, no matter what. As the Vanguard sailed into the stars, leaving the dark nebula behind, Rena felt a sense of calm settle over her. The galaxy was vast, and there would always be new dangers, new threats. But for now, they had won. And as long as they had each other, they would always be ready for whatever came next.